Hi, and welcome to the Aspire Europe Competent Program Controls course. This is a module covering PMO implementation. Some of you may have come across this kind of thing in P3O, but we've included a few nuggets and ideas beyond that, which are more practical for you. My name's Rod Sowden. I was the lead author of P3M3 MSP, and I'm also the managing director of Aspire Europe, and I'll be with you throughout all the videos. So let's just remind ourselves what the role of the PMO is. It's about delivering strategic alignment. So when we're thinking through the layers, we've got the portfolio office, we've got the program offices, what you might call delivery offices, and you've got project offices. So we need to create alignment between this. They're core to setting standards and driving consistency across all our delivery. Then they're about scrutiny and compliance to make sure they've supported that. And then we've got the concept of the Centre of Excellence providing support and guidance. So from the diagram, strategy drives everything. PMO connects it into the delivery environment. Really important to remember the mechanism. The PMO doesn't exist to upset delivery people by asking for information, and it must be closely linked to strategy, but it's got a real tough job because it's not easy at times to see its value. It's continually fighting for resources, so a real tough place to work, but hopefully we'll give you some ideas on how to be more effective. So when we're scoping the PMO, there's almost an unlimited amount of processes that we could follow. And on the table there on the right, there's a whole bunch of things. They can help you build business cases, planning, health and safety, stage gate management, all that stuff. Basically, these are all the controls it could be involved in. So it can be involved in any one of the processes, whether it exists or not. Now, if you're standing up a PMO for the first time, you've got to decide which ones you're going to use, because you cannot do all that in one go. So there's a cycle that you need to go through, which is decide what your priorities are. All right. You may not need all of them. There may be perfectly adequate finance processes. And if there is, then we need to tie into them, not try and reinvent them. We may well find that there's a governance model that we have to fit into. And always remembering that when you stand up a new PMO, understanding where it sits in the system is really critical. Once we've decided which ones we're going to do, we then have to design how they're going to work. Now, we've done quite a lot on this course about controls design, whichever ones it happens to be, planning, reporting, all those kind of things. And then we have to implement it, and then we need to operate it for a while and then improve it, and what do we see in the lower maturity organizations? They have a go, they implement it, it kind of operates, and then a new broom comes along a couple of years later and goes, oh, we can do it better, throws the process out, rewrites it again. Actually, people have got used to the old process, flaky though it may have been, and will stick with it. And just because you've written a new one doesn't mean they're going to change. So always important to remember that it's evolution, not revolution. And most revolutionary PMOs fail just like the previous one. So for each function, when we're thinking about how do we define what needs to happen, the PMO, whether it's as a portfolio hub or whether it's operating as a Centre of Excellence, needs to think in terms of setting standards. That is the number one thing it has to do. All the other stuff can follow. There is an order that we need to follow in this sort of stuff. We need to set standards so people know what's expected of them. We may not have set we then need to set the responsibilities. So you've set the standard. Who's responsible for making it happen? Is it the project manager, the program manager, the business change manager? Who's going to make that happen? And then we've got to think about the processes. So they've got to make it happen. What do they have to do to make it happen? Think about, do we expect them to use techniques? Now, techniques tend to kick in at level 3 in an organization, so don't jump in too early. They won't be doing earned value and critical path at the outset. We've got to think about the evolution of this thing. You might need to have some systems. Now, if you want a guaranteed source of failure, go and buy a PMO system, put it in and expect it to work. You've really got to think about what it is you do and then blending the system into you. That's not to say you have to have a customized system, but the system shouldn't control you. You should control the system. And then we have guidance, the Centre of Excellence. Somebody's got to develop the guidance to help the operational delivery of things. And we need to make sure we've got the skills and competencies in place. And if we're buying the service in from elsewhere, we need to think about service levels, whether that's an internal provider like commercial and procurement, or maybe it's an external provider of resources. We need to have an understanding of how this thing's going to build. So for every service that you want to provide, those are the things you need to think about. It's not a case of a list. That's what we mean when we talk about design. So we need a staged approach to building the PMO. So once we've designed what it is we're going to build, the next step is mobilize. So mobilizing, we need to have a mandate or negotiate if we're internally, or maybe we're bringing in externals to do this, that we set up a team, that we've got governance around the implementation, stakeholders know what's going on, that we've got all the systems designed, and we've decided what our primary processes are, which are the things we must have in place. We then move to implementation, where we've got our standards and we implement them. We help people transition onto them. The first tranches of projects may be launched to build the PMO, and we would also be pulling in the first tranches of projects that we're going to apply controls to, or maybe it's a particular program that we're going to deal with. And we start to communicate what's going on. Then we manage it. So if we're looking at, say, risk management, we've now got the full operation in place, for risk, and we will see better risk management. We'll have less things going wrong. And we'll see contract evolution in our terms of reference. But we need to manage each process as we put it in. Each function needs to be thought about in this way. And then we evolve or exit. So basically, if we're an internal PMO, we would then be looking to improve, learn what we've learned from those processes, archive off the old ways of working. Or if we're a supplier of a PMO service, it may be the point where we exit, hand over all our good stuff to the in-house team that's going to take it over from us. So here's what we call our MIME planning matrix. So mobilize, implement, manage, evolve. And so the idea being is, here's the main processes. What you want to decide is which ones are the problematic ones. Which ones are causing us the most hurt and pain. We may find some already exist. So we might find finance is already there, commercial is there, so we just need to learn up to them. Maybe we've already got risk management working, something like that. And so you can go through and start to build your plan here by going, well, the ones we're going to mobilize first will be the reds. Well, we didn't have a business case, we don't do stage gate reviews or assurance. Those are quite important ones if you want to gain control. Maybe we're very poor at estimating and financial control. So we'd make those, they're reds, we're going to do those first. The green ones, risk, program governance, issue management, maybe we've got those under control, so we don't have to prioritize them. But in our first wave, that's how we would go. And so we can then use that to develop an implementation stage plan. So stage one, you'll see which ones we're implementing. We've only got finite resources, so we'll be designing as we go along. The ones that are coming from the amber group. So the red ones go in first, the amber ones are following up, that kind of thing. And then we can stage two, right, well, we've got to operate certain processes, but we'll be implementing new ones. You could, by stage three, just be operating, or there could be other ones that are coming through. Stage four could be improved, whether it's an internal or an internal program office team. Improve could be handover, it could be time for continual improvement. So you can see how that process works. And for each one of those processes, we've got to prioritize it, design it, before we can mobilize, implement, operate, and improve. Okay, so there's a kind of way of looking at the programming office implementation elements of controls. Controls are everywhere, and we need to think about which are the priorities, because you cannot boil the ocean when you're coming to implementing the PMO. And that's part of the problem. The PMO desperately wants to be all things to all people too early. The staff are kind of not competent. The systems don't work, and then people start to lose faith in them. So at core of the PMO role is process improvement. And within the course, we talk about Six Sigma. Yep, Six Sigma is the way to do it. So for each of those processes, we would be, when we're in the operate state, we are looking at the process. We should be able to measure it, looking for opportunities to progress. So really define is, does it work or doesn't it? If it's largely working, then maybe we don't need to worry about it. If we've got problems, like we don't have the right information to make decisions, the IT system supporting it doesn't work, or the people aren't competent maybe, we need to look at, we've got a problem, we need to measure it, analyze it. As I've said, is it the systems or the people or the process? Then we come up with a way of improving it, and then we control it and monitor it and see if we've done it. So Six Sigma is really powerful in this, and comes in a lot once we're talking about the management of the controls and the processes that are under the remit of the PMO. And then, of course, we can't forget people, which we cover in other areas, but we've got to remember that we've got to think that they're coming into the PMO as a career, or they're coming into our program as a career move. We've got to make sure they've got the right competencies, so we need to have a way of baselining what they know. People go for qualifications. Well, okay, they had a good day in an exam room or a bad day in the exam room. We need to actually know what they can do, not just what they know. And some of the stuff we're doing on this course is about helping you do things better. Then we can basically do training. We help them build their knowledge. We create groups of communities of practice or like-minded people. And then we watch for talent, those that are kind of energetic, committed, go the extra mile. And then we deliver education. We watch how good they are. Maybe they haven't got the best of training, but maybe they're just good at the job because they've got the right behaviors, and all that stuff comes into performance. So we've got to, from the PMO, we've got to look at our own people, and we've got to look at the performance of the project managers and the program managers. So it's multi-dimensional. Well, I hope that gave you some insight into the role of the PMO. You may already have known some of it, but I hope I've managed to add a little bit of value. There's plenty of stuff in the course, and you should have had access to P3O as well at some point. There's videos within our playlist that you might want to catch up on to look at that aspect of PMO management. So thank you for listening. Time for a cup of coffee and to get on with the rest of the module.